my name is Annie Cooper and welcome to today's video. I want to share with you a little bit about macros, losing fat, a program for steady fat loss, and more. Okay, so let's get into it. And I'm gonna put a couple notes on the screen here so you guys can follow along. So the first thing is determining how many calories you need in order to lose fat. So to lose fat, to lose weight, you need to put yourself in a calorie deficit, meaning you are eating less than you burn. Now, determining how many calories we need is tricky, and this is a common question that I get all the time. So the first thing we need to do is figure out our maintenance calories, which means what you need in order to maintain your weight for the scale not to move, your maintenance calories on your day-to-day. There are a ton of resources online, there's a ton of free calculators, and I would say the most accurate way of doing this is by getting a test done, like a DEXA scan or something like that, to determine your maintenance calories the most accurate way possible. But a lot of us do not have access to that, it is expensive. So another way of doing this is to multiply your body weight times 16. Now this will kind of give us a ballpark to where your maintenance calories might be, but again, this is a ballpark. This is not going to be exact. This might not even be close to your maintenance calories, but it will give you a way to target that and kind of adjust from there. So figure out your maintenance calories, and I would go ahead and lower that by about 15 to 20% to put yourself in a deficit to start with. So at the beginning of any diet, this is kind of like a trial and error period. You might have to make a lot of adjustments in order to make sure that you are on track with your goals and you're moving in the direction that you want to be. So each week, go ahead and check in with yourself. Hop on the scale before eating or drinking anything and get an average of your weights each week. Now the scale is not gonna be the most accurate way of tracking your progress. I know we've all heard this before. Based on our hormones, water weight, too much sodium, stress, sleep, there's a ton of different factors that come into the scale changing when you wake up in the morning. If you slept more, the scale might be down a little bit because you're having more time to digest your food, especially if you're someone who eats late at night. If you sleep for 5 or 6 hours, not only will you be a little bit more inflamed because of the no sleep, but if you ate late at night, you're not giving your body that same amount of time to digest. So there's a lot of factors that come into the scale increasing or even being down a little bit. So what you want to do is make sure that you're taking pictures each week as well and comparing. You don't need to take pictures every single day. I don't see the point in that. You're not going to see a ton of changes from 1 to 4 days anyways. The most important thing is measuring each week to make sure that we are on track with our goals. Now, if you are gaining weight steadily over time and that is not your goal is fat loss, then you might not be in the calorie deficit that you think you are. So then you might have to make some adjustments. If you are losing weight too quickly, then you might be too much in a deficit where you might have to bump your calories up a little bit or cut back on the cardio or the training that you might be doing. Now, when we're starting any new program or diet plan, we do tend to lose weight a little bit quicker in the beginning than we will towards the middle or the end. When you get to that point, your body will get used to the things that we are doing, and at that point, you'll have to make some adjustments, whether it is training or diet-based. As we get leaner, it will be harder and harder to lose that last little bit of fat. This is the hardest part in a diet, is when you get to that lean phase that you are at, and those last little inches or that last bit of fat is the hardest to get off. Okay, so that's a little bit about calories, and now about macros. Now I do have a whole video on how to track your macros, so I don't want to talk about it too much in here, so I'll go ahead and link it below so you can figure out how to track your macros. But essentially, macros are your carbs, fats, and protein. They are what make up your total calories. Now, when it comes to adjusting macros and figuring them out, it is always best to start out high so that you have room to adjust and lower over time. You do not, I'm gonna say this like 1,000 times, you don't wanna give yourself super low macros to start with, because then you have nowhere to go after that. If you're following a super low macro plan for 6 weeks, you plateau or however long it is, there's gonna be no room to adjust. You don't wanna lower your calories to like 900 calories, you know what I mean? So you do wanna start out with higher calories, and I always recommend increasing your activity. That's the first thing to do. Start with high macros because that is the goal, and then lower from there. So when it comes to macros, I'm someone that does better with a higher carb diet. Now, some people do a lot better with higher fats and lower carbs. So this really depends on the person, and honestly, all of these diets that you'll see online, Atkins, South Beach diet, keto, I don't know, all the intermittent fasting, all of these different things are putting your body in a calorie deficit in some way. So all of these diets will work because they are most likely going to either cut out or limit certain food groups, so that it will put yourself in a calorie deficit, if that makes sense. So in my opinion, it doesn't really matter what diet you follow as long as it works well for you. But when you get more in depth to these diets, you can kind of determine, kind of not the percentages, but the actual grams of your protein, carbs, and fats that are within that. And that's the best way, in my opinion, to kind of figure out how you can adjust from there. So if you know the exact amount of grams that you're eating in carbs, fats, and protein, you can adjust slightly each different, section to kind of see, okay, what do I need to lower in order to make progress in this way? How can I adjust from here? So I personally think, as a scientific based way of, putting yourself in a fat loss stage, I think tracking macros is the absolute best way and the most effective way in order to do this. So as someone who has a lot of muscle, I do a lot of running, a lot of high intensity training, I feel like I can take in a lot of carbs. So right now, for example, I don't like to share my macros, but it doesn't really matter that much. I think everyone's macros will be different anyways, and it's not gonna work for everyone. So regardless, you're gonna be on a different plan than I am or than someone else's. But for my fat loss plan right now, I started at about 320 grams of carbs, which is insane. And then now I'm at about 225 grams of carbs per day. And that is factored into my total calories. So I did something called a reverse diet not too long ago, about a year and a half ago, I wanna say. So I was at a point where I was stuck on low calories, and the second that I would bump up my calories, even like 100 or 200 calories, I would gain weight. And that's because my body was used to these little calories. I wasn't going anywhere, and it was like this horrible cycle of like me trying to, lose weight, and I had nowhere to go, and I was training hard, I didn't have energy because of the low calories and just all these different things. So I had to do something called a reverse diet and slowly bump my calories up. I've been on high calories for the last 2 years, I wanna say, maybe a year and a half. And it's helped me so much that when I do decide to jump into this dieting phase, I don't have to cut my calories too low. I'm satisfied, I'm not overly hungry, and I'm able to train with intensity like I would usually because I'm able to have more carbs and more calories overall. The formula that I gave you, your body weight times 16, for me that would put me at around 2,500 calories, I believe, to maintain. I think that's pretty accurate there, but then again, days that I train hard, I feel like I have to eat more calories, and of course I'm burning so many with the training that I'm doing, so I can afford a little bit more. So then again, it comes to the person. So it comes to what type of training you're doing, how many calories you're burning. It might not be a bad idea to get one of those Fitbits or a Garmin watch, Polar watch, to kind of see how many calories you're burning during your workouts or throughout the day, to kind of see, each day, are you burning more on this day, not burning enough on this day, and kind of adjust from there so you can kind of track it another way, not just by the scale or by pictures. Then again, all of these calculators, all of these watches, everything like that are not going to be 100% accurate. Please, please, please know that. You do not have to think, oh, I'm gonna burn 500 calories, I can eat that back. Nothing like that. It just gives you kind of another way of tracking your calories and how much you're burning and the intensity of that with your heart rate and things like that. But I wouldn't suggest cutting out any food group entirely, but instead simply reducing this because they all play a different role. And when you are tracking macros, you wanna make sure at least 80 to 85% of your diet is clean, whole foods. You have to make sure you're at least getting your micronutrients in as well, like your vitamins, minerals, and your fiber, to make sure that everything is functioning correctly and you're getting those nutrients that your body needs. You don't wanna have too many fun foods because not only will you not feel the best, but this will not really aid in your performance or what your body needs in general. There are different ways to put yourself in a deficit. You of course want to make sure that you're eating less calories than you burn in the day. But what if you're burning a ton of calories in the day? What if your training is burning a lot of calories plus you're really active in the day? You have a high active job such as a nurse, someone that's always on your feet, a personal trainer like me, someone that's training people all day. I burn a ton of calories through that as well. Therefore, I'm actually able to eat a little bit more. So pay attention to your lifestyle, the training that you do, and that will help you determine your calorie needs as well. So let's say you're someone who likes to eat a little bit more. You've adjusted your diet as needed. You put yourself, you think, in a calorie deficit and you don't really want to lower it anymore, but the scale is not moving. Then I would say I'll go ahead and adjust your training. If you are someone that doesn't do any cardio, maybe incorporate some cardio. If you're someone that does low intensity cardio, which actually is great for fat loss, believe it or not, Incline walking is amazing for fat loss, believe it or not. But if you're doing that low intensity cardio and it's kind of not working for you, then either increase the time that you're doing it, or maybe add in some intervals. Maybe do like your 20 minutes or whatever it is of low intensity cardio, and then add in like 10 minutes of sprints or 10 minutes of intervals on the stairs or something like that, just to switch it up and get your heart rate in these different kind of levels and see if that helps you at that point on. The other thing is lifting weights. Remember that when you are doing cardio, you are only burning calories while you're doing it. When you're lifting weights, this goes for actually high intensity training as well. You're burning calories while you're doing it. Your body is actually still burning calories once you're done. So therefore it makes it a very effective way to lose overall body fat. So if you are someone that does cardio mainly, go ahead and start incorporating some lifting sessions within your week. The main thing in a diet is, I tell all of my clients this, is I don't want you to feel like crap. I do not want you to feel like crap. I want you to feel good. I want you to still have energy to train. If you're lowering your calories too much, you're starving all the time, that's not a good sign. Then how are you supposed to put your energy into training? How are you supposed to burn those calories that you need? How are you supposed to make your training intense to build this muscle? So you're not gonna be able to do any of those things if you are feeling like crap. So the main thing is you wanna make sure you are feeling good. This comes with making sure you're getting enough water. You wanna make sure you're getting at least 3 to 5 liters anywhere, and that this of course is based on how much you're sweating, your weight, your metabolism and things like that as well. But you wanna make sure you're getting enough sleep. Sleep is probably the number one thing. When I don't sleep, my workouts not only suck, but I can't recover. I'm always more sore. I always feel way worse going into my training session and after. I just can't give that effort that I would usually if I got the full amount of sleep that I need. So you don't need 10 hours or whatever. I personally need like 9 hours to feel good with the training that I'm doing. But if you sleep for 7-8 hours, you feel good, then go ahead and do that. Again, see what works, see how you recover. That is the main thing. Also, if you're doing this training and you're feeling like you're not recovering, you're constantly sore, you're constantly feeling just fatigued, that's also not a good sign. Maybe then you want to adjust your diet, maybe kind of play around with the carb content, give yourself more carbs, maybe give yourself more calories, give yourself more rest days. There's so many factors, and I know I've been saying this entire video, but literally there are so many factors that come into play with diet and training and fat loss. I don't want to make this video too long. There's so much that I could say about this, but the last thing that I want to say is to be patient. It takes so much time. Guys, it's taken me, I think the first 3 years I started to notice. At the 3rd year mark, I started to really be like, okay, whoa, I'm starting to see a ton of muscle. But the first year, especially the first 6 months, I didn't see anything. I mean, I did change my body, but as far as muscle definition and how I looked overall, it is nothing compared to now. And now that I'm a little bit older, I have more muscle maturity, so I'm noticing, okay, way more definition. I'm noticing that I've made huge strides in the last 4 years versus when I first started 10 years ago now, which is insane. I started when I was 15 and I'm 25 now, but it takes a lot of time. It doesn't take just a couple of weeks. Yes, you can lose weight in a short period of time. You definitely can. In at least, 8 to 10 weeks, you can make huge changes. I wouldn't say in 4 weeks you can make a ton of changes, but at least 8 to 10 weeks you can see a lot of progress in between that time as far as fat loss goes. But with muscle building, it takes a long time. I mean, you do not build muscle extremely quick. You lose weight definitely faster than you do build muscle. So guys, please be patient. It takes a ton of time. It takes trial and error. It's very annoying at times. It definitely is, but you just have to stay consistent and you have to make sure you're enjoying the training that you're doing and that it is hard. You're really pushing yourself when you're training and you're making sure that you're giving your full effort, because when you do that, the harder you push yourself in the gym, the more results you'll see. It really is with fitness. The more that you give, the more you put out, the more you will receive, the more it'll show. It sounds so cheesy, but it's so true. The same thing with diet. Like, I'm not gonna say like you have to stick to your diet every single day and be super strict, but you do if you're trying to make huge changes and you're trying to make a ton of progress in a short period of time. At that point, you kind of have to let the whole moderation and the whole balance thing go. I mean, when you're trying to make progress quickly, there's no balance, I would say. I mean, in my opinion, there's really not. After you lose kind of what you want to lose, or maybe after you hit the goal that you want to hit, because it's not all about losing weight, of course, but once you hit that goal, then you might be able to incorporate some balance. You might be able to increase your calories, fit in certain little treats, have your little cheat meal or whatever it is. But when you're kind of in that process, especially at the initial stages, you do not have room for mess ups. You cannot, get off track. And then also that will kind of ruin your studies, your kind of adjustments. How are you going to adjust your macros if 2 days out of the week you're not staying on top of it? So you really want to make sure that you are staying consistent throughout the week. And the first 6 weeks, I'll say, are the most important to make sure that you are on the right track and you're kind of following the right program. You don't want to waste your time, so you want to make sure that you're making those adjustments. You're being conscious about what you're doing in the gym, in the kitchen, sleep, recovery, all these things. Be conscious of it. Don't play games with yourself. Don't be like, oh, I was pretty good, but in reality, you know, you kind of messed up 2 or 3 days and you weren't exactly on point. So I'm talking so fast. Oh my, this always happens. I get into it. But go ahead and comment below if you have any questions and then I'll do my best to answer them. Bye.